Before Rome dominated the Mediterranean, another civilization had already built a powerful maritime empire. Its name was Carthage. Located on the coast of North Africa, Carthage became one of the richest and most influential cities of the ancient Mediterranean. Its merchants controlled major trade routes. Its ships crossed distant seas. Its armies fought across North Africa, Spain, Sicily, and Italy. And for centuries, Carthage stood as one of Rome's greatest rivals. But eventually, the two powers would collide. What followed was a struggle that lasted for more than a century. 3 major wars, 1 legendary commander, and the destruction of an entire city. This is the story of Carthage, the empire Rome eventually destroyed. The rise of Carthage. Carthage was founded by Phoenician settlers, traditionally associated with the city of Tyre, sometime in the first millennium BCE. Its location was almost perfect. The city stood on the coast of modern Tunisia, close to major Mediterranean routes. From there, Carthaginian merchants could reach North Africa, Sicily, Sardinia, Spain, and other regions. Trade became the foundation of Carthaginian power. The city became wealthy through commerce, agriculture, fishing, shipping, and access to valuable resources. Carthage also developed an impressive navy. Its ships allowed it to protect trade routes and project power far beyond North Africa. Over time, Carthage established settlements and trading centers across parts of the Western Mediterranean. It was becoming more than a city. It was becoming a maritime power. But while Carthage was expanding across the Western Mediterranean, another power was growing on the Italian peninsula. Rome. And eventually, Rome would challenge everything Carthage had built. Rome and Carthage collide. At first, Rome and Carthage were not necessarily destined to become enemies. They had different strengths. Carthage was an experienced maritime and commercial power. Rome was primarily a rising land power. But their interests increasingly overlapped. The key struggle centered on Sicily. The island was strategically important because of its location in the Mediterranean. Control of Sicily meant influence over important sea routes. Both Rome and Carthage wanted that influence. In 264 BCE, conflict erupted. The First Punic War had begun. Rome faced a major problem. Carthage had a much stronger navy. The Romans were not naturally a great naval power. But they adapted. Rome built fleets. Its soldiers learned naval warfare. And after years of brutal fighting, Rome eventually defeated Carthage. Carthage surrendered Sicily. Rome had taken its first major step toward becoming a Mediterranean power. But Carthage had not forgotten the defeat. The rivalry was only beginning. Carthage BYLDS again. After the First Punic War, Carthage turned its attention towards Spain. There, Carthaginian commanders expanded their influence and gained access to valuable resources. Spain provided soldiers, metals, and wealth. Among the Carthaginian leaders was the famous Hamilcar Barca. His family would become central to the next phase of the conflict. His son was Hannibal Barca. Hannibal would become one of the most famous military commanders in history. From an early age, Hannibal was connected to Carthage's struggle against Rome. He eventually took command of Carthaginian forces in Spain. And then in 218 BCE, he made a decision that shocked Rome. He would invade Italy. But instead of approaching Rome by sea, Hannibal chose an extraordinary route. He would march through Spain and southern Gaul and cross the Alps. Hannibal crosses the Alps. Hannibal's army was enormous by ancient standards. It included infantry, cavalry, and war elephants. The journey toward Italy was incredibly difficult. Rivers had to be crossed. Mountain tribes attacked the army. Food became difficult to obtain. The terrain was dangerous. And then came the Alps. The mountains were steep, cold, and unpredictable. Hannibal's army suffered heavy losses during the crossing. But enough survived. When the Carthaginians finally emerged in northern Italy, Rome faced a nightmare. An enemy army had appeared on Italian soil from an unexpected direction. Rome was not prepared for what came next. Hannibal defeats Rome. Hannibal quickly demonstrated his military ability. At the Battle of Trebia, he defeated a Roman army. Then came Lake Trasimene. There, Hannibal used the landscape to trap the Romans. The result was another devastating defeat. But Hannibal's greatest victory came at Cannae in 216 BCE. Rome assembled a massive army. The Romans believed their superior numbers could finally crush Hannibal. Instead, Hannibal used a brilliant maneuver. His forces surrounded the Roman army from multiple directions. The Roman soldiers became trapped. The battle turned into a catastrophe. Thousands of Roman soldiers were killed. Cannae became one of Rome's worst military defeats. For a moment, the impossible seemed possible. Rome itself appeared vulnerable. Why did Rome survive? After Cannae, some of Rome's allies defected. Hannibal had achieved incredible victories. So why didn't Rome collapse? Because Rome possessed something incredibly important: the ability to recover. Rome continued recruiting soldiers. It raised new armies. It avoided unnecessary battles when necessary. Roman commanders changed their strategy. Instead of constantly confronting Hannibal directly, they began attacking Carthaginian allies and territories. Rome slowly weakened Hannibal's support network. Hannibal remained dangerous, but he was increasingly isolated. The war became a struggle of endurance, and Rome was proving that it could survive almost anything. Scipio Africanus. While Hannibal remained in Italy, a Roman commander named Scipio developed a different strategy. Instead of chasing Hannibal, Scipio took the war to North Africa. Roman forces attacked Carthaginian territory. Suddenly, Carthage itself was threatened. Hannibal was recalled from Italy. After years of fighting, the two great commanders finally faced each other. The location was Zama in North Africa. This time, Hannibal lost. The Second Punic War ended with a Roman victory. Carthage was forced to surrender its overseas empire. Its military power was restricted. Its influence was dramatically reduced. Rome had won, but Carthage survived, and that would become a problem. The fear of Carthage. Even after its defeat, Carthage remained economically important. The city recovered. Its agriculture and trade continued. Its population survived, and some Romans feared that Carthage might become powerful again. One Roman statesman became particularly famous for his hostility toward the city: Cato the Elder. Ancient writers associate him with the repeated warning, "Carthage must be destroyed." The exact circumstances behind the phrase are debated, but the political message was clear. For some Romans, Carthage was still a potential threat. Eventually, a dispute involving Carthage and a neighboring kingdom gave Rome the opportunity it needed. In 149 BCE, Rome declared war. The Third Punic War had begun. The last war. This time, the situation was completely different. Carthage was no longer the great empire that Hannibal had commanded. Rome was overwhelmingly powerful, but Carthage refused to surrender easily. The city prepared for war. Weapons were produced. Defenses were strengthened. The population mobilized. The Romans expected a relatively quick victory. Instead, they faced a determined resistance. The siege continued for years. Rome eventually tightened its grip around the city. Carthage was slowly isolated. Food became scarce. The defenders became exhausted. But they continued fighting. Then, in 146 BCE, the Roman army finally broke through. The destruction of Carthage. The fighting moved into the streets. Carthaginian defenders fought house by house. The city that had once controlled the western Mediterranean was now collapsing. Roman soldiers pushed deeper into Carthage. Eventually, the resistance ended. Carthage had fallen. Its political independence was destroyed. Large numbers of inhabitants were killed or enslaved. Its buildings were destroyed. Its territory was absorbed into Roman control. After more than a century of rivalry, Rome had finally eliminated its greatest Western Mediterranean competitor. The age of Carthage was over. But Carthage was not forgotten. The destruction of Carthage changed the Mediterranean. Rome now faced far less competition in the Western Mediterranean. Its influence continued expanding. The Roman Republic became increasingly powerful. Eventually, Roman control would stretch across enormous territories. But Carthage left an enduring legacy. Its naval traditions, its commercial network, its cultural influence, and most famously, Hannibal. Hannibal had never conquered Rome, but he had shown that Rome could be defeated. His victories at Trebia, Trasimene, and Cannae remain famous examples of ancient military strategy. His crossing of the Alps became legendary, and his name became permanently connected with Rome's greatest military crisis. Two different strengths. The rivalry between Rome and Carthage reveals something fascinating. Carthage had enormous wealth. It had experienced sailors. It had a powerful navy. It had access to overseas resources. And it produced commanders like Hannibal. Rome had something different. A huge manpower base. A flexible military system. Strong political institutions. And an extraordinary ability to recover from disaster. Hannibal could destroy Roman armies, but he could not destroy Rome's ability to raise new ones. That difference ultimately decided the war. Carthage could win battles. Rome could survive them. And eventually, survival became victory. The city rises again. Interestingly, Carthage did not remain empty forever. Centuries after its destruction, the Romans developed a new city on the same site. Roman Carthage became an important center of trade and agriculture. Its location was simply too valuable to ignore. The same land that had once supported the Carthaginian Empire now became part of the Roman world. History had come full circle. Rome had destroyed Carthage, and later made use of the very place where its rival had once stood. The legacy of Carthage. Today, the ruins of ancient Carthage can still be found near modern Tunis in Tunisia. The remains are much quieter than the city must have been thousands of years ago. But they tell an extraordinary story. A Phoenician settlement became a wealthy maritime power. That power challenged Rome. Hannibal crossed the Alps. Roman armies suffered some of their greatest defeats. Carthage survived one war. It lost another. And finally, after the Third Punic War, it was destroyed. The story of Carthage is therefore not simply the story of a city that lost. It is the story of two civilizations competing to shape the Mediterranean. And ultimately, only one survived as the dominant power. The final lesson: the history of Rome and Carthage teaches us something important about power. Military victories do not always decide wars. Hannibal won some of the most brilliant battles of antiquity. But Rome refused to surrender. It rebuilt. It adapted. It changed its strategy. And eventually, it defeated the enemy that had once seemed capable of destroying it. Carthage was powerful, but Rome was persistent. And sometimes, persistence can be more dangerous than strength. In 146 BCE, Carthage fell. Rome stood victorious. The Mediterranean was transformed. And the Roman Republic moved one step closer to becoming the greatest power of the ancient Mediterranean. But the ruins of Carthage still remain. They remind us that even the richest cities, the strongest armies, and the most powerful empires can disappear. Carthage once ruled the western Mediterranean. Hannibal once marched across the Alps and brought Rome to the edge of disaster. But in the end, Carthage could not survive Rome's determination. Rome won the war. Carthage lost its empire, and history remembered them both. This was history uncovered. If you enjoy uncovering the forgotten battles, empires, civilizations, and turning points that shaped our world, subscribe for more historical documentaries.